Good morning, everybody. I can only see around 4 students here. Okay, please turn on your camera. Let's have now module 2, which is ecosystem and biodiversity, right? Let's take a look at what are these ecosystems and what is biodiversity for us? How biodiverse our ecosystem, right? Let's move forward. Ecosystem structure, okay? The interaction of living things to their physical environment consists of an ecosystem. Okay? In an ecosystem, the flow of energy and matter moves in one direction or unidirectional. The light coming from the sun is the main source of energy for organisms living on Earth. It is not an ultimate source, right? But it is a main source. When you say ultimate source, there is no other source. Take a look at this example. There are some bacteria living in the seamounts, okay, beneath the seafloor. They cannot actually receive light from the sun, but they can perform chemosynthesis instead of photosynthesis because there is no light there, right? Since there is no light there, these organisms evolve in order for them to live and survive, right? So they actually maximizing the chemicals from the seamounts. Okay, they can actually perform chemosynthesis. That's the reason behind. This radiant energy is used by plants to convert inorganic compounds such as carbon dioxide and water into rich or energy-rich compounds to photosynthesis. Okay, plants converted carbon dioxide and water into C6H12O6 or the simple glucose. Okay, the chemical combination for glucose or your sugar is C6H12O6, carbon 6, hydrogen 12, and oxygen 6. Right? Since plants and other photosynthetic organisms can manufacture their own food, they are called producers or autotrophs. Yes. Aside from plants, other examples of producers include phytoplankton, okay, in the ocean and algae in ponds. They can actually perform photosynthesis. Some producers called chemosynthetic autotrophs that synthesize organic compounds without the aid of sunlight, the one that I had discussed a while ago. Okay. They make their own food using the dissolved chemicals from hydrothermal vents found in the ocean floor, okay, in the seamounts. And that is why the sun is not actually the ultimate source of energy. Consumers or heterotrophs are organisms that fed mainly on producers because they cannot create their own food or they cannot make their own food. For instance, in a cornfield, corn crops are the producers, of course. And the cutworm who fed on the leaves and stems are the consumers. We are actually included in the consumers, okay? Because we cannot actually manufacture our own food. The food chain illustrates the flow of energy and matter in a given ecosystem. If you're going to look at a food chain, okay, plants produce their own food. It will be consumed by the primary consumer, which is the grasshopper. The grasshopper will be consumed by the frog. The frog will be eaten by the tertiary consumer, which is the snake, and the snake will be eaten by the final consumer, which is the hawk, and the hawk will go back to land, go back to soil, to the process of decomposition by the decomposers if they die, and of course the nutrients from the hawk will actually return to the soil in order for the plants to absorb. That's the cycle. Okay, if the food chain will overlap, tendency is we will have food web. That's the overlapping food chain. Okay, in nature, there's no such thing as a perfect food chain. Why? Because in nature, it overlaps. Naturally, organisms overlap. Even us, we overlap, we overuse.
What's
Okay?
the
We
perfect
overuse
food
nature.
chain, sir? What does that mean?
Perfect food chain means a straight line, just like this illustration here. This is a perfect food chain. Okay? There is no other hindrances. There is no other third party that actually eaten those organisms. But in reality, there's no such thing as perfect food chain. Instead, we have food web, the overlapping food chain. Even as humans actually included in the overlapping, we are included in the food web. Why? Because we consume a lot. Okay? We do a lot of activities that harm nature. That's the reason behind. The position of organisms or position an organism occupies in the food chain is called the trophic level. So we have actually trophic levels. Please, if you have question, please raise it directly, right? You can always interrupt, right? The first trophic level in the food chain are comprised or composed of producers, of course. Okay, they are the base. When you say base, they are the one in the lowest area and typically composed of plants and other autotrophic organisms or producers. These autotrophic organisms produce their own food. Because they're autotrophic, they can actually manufacture their own food. The second trophic level is mainly comprised of herbivores because they consume what? The producers. Okay? Herbivores. Okay? An organism that fed only on plants. Since the herbivores fed on producers directly, they are known as primary consumers. Take note that the primary consumers are herbivores. Okay? The third and the fourth trophic level in the food chain are either comprised or composed of carnivores, that organisms that only eat meat, or the omnivores. Okay? These are organisms that fed on both plants and animals. Okay? Omnivores. We are omnivores. Depending on which organisms they eat, they can either be secondary consumers, those that fed the primary consumers, or the tertiary consumers that fed on the secondary consumers. Right? Scavengers are the consumers that fed on tissues of dead organic material or dead animals. Okay? Their trophic level in food chain is highly dependent on what they consume. Example, animal scavengers like crows, vultures, and ants. Decomposers and detritivores, are you familiar with those? Detritivores. Have you heard about detritivores already?
No, sir.
Written?
No, sir.
Okay. Detritivores actually fed on dead organic material. Okay? Detritus. Based on research, we are now included in the detritivores. Animals now are included in
Really,
the
sir?
detritivores. Yes, because
Why?
we actually dead organic material. What are those food? Sure. How about your ginamos? Your hipon? Those are dead organic materials preserved. Your bulad. Okay? These are preserved dead organic materials, correct? Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But later on in the studies, the detritivores focuses on eating dead organic materials. We are actually dynamic. Okay, we can be detritivore, and of course, we are mainly omnivores. Mainly omnivores. That is the reason why I told you a while ago, the one that I am telling you, that humans in nature occupies a lot in the food chain and in the food web. We consume a lot. Okay, thinking about there are a lot of things that we usually do and which can actually harm nature. Okay, we are occupying more than one area in the ecosystem, more than one area in the food web or in the trophic level. Okay. Again, decomposers or detritivores such as fungus and bacterium singular, bacteria plural. That is the reason why there is no such thing as bacterias. No. The plural term for bacterium is bacteria. Okay? Fed on dead organic matter from all trophic levels. Okay? Question. Based on this statement, decomposers or detritivores such as fungus and bacterium fed on dead organic matter from all trophic levels. What is now the ecological importance of these decomposers? Anybody? What is now the ecological importance of the detritivores or decomposers? Margie? Based on that statement, they fed on dead organic material. So what is now the ecological importance of these detritivores? Your worms, your scavengers, your um your fly. What are their ecological importance? A lot of my students are asking for the ecological importance of this. Okay? Meaning, what are their importance when talking about ecosystem? What is their role in the ecosystem? What is the role of them in the ecosystem? Anybody? Based on the statement that they fed on dead organic material. Yes, MD. MD, what do you think the ecological importance?
They recycle the kuan.
Yes, correct. Okay, they recycle the nutrients. Okay, it balances the food chain. Yes, preferably. Okay, take note. What if we have this situation? Okay, there are a lot of dead organic material and there is no bacteria, there is no fungus or fungi that actually consume them. What will happen next? They cannot actually return to soil. The nutrients that they consume will not return back to nature. And tendency is there is the unbalanced what? Unbalanced circulation of nutrients. And of course, in a given period of time, if they consume all, tendency is there's no coming back, there's no recycling. So what actually their ecological importance is that they return actually the nutrients that they actually carried on in their body going back to the soil in order for the plants to consume it back in order to balance the ecology or balance the ecological niche, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's move forward. Wait, let me
Wait,
take this.
wait, sir. The decomposers are like the vultures and the crows, like, sir.
What is your question again, MD?
The decomposers, sir. Those
Okay,
are
the
the vultures.
no, the vultures are the scavengers. They are not the decomposers. Okay, scavengers um tend to eat these dead organic material. Yes, they actually fed on dead organic material, but they are not the one responsible in returning back, okay, the nutrients. They consume it for their own good. Okay, they consume it for their own good. But talking about decomposers, they consume it because they will return it to the soil. Okay. That's the difference between the scavengers and the detritivores. Okay, when you say the scavengers, they scavenge. Okay, if somebody dies, okay,
Oh,
they
sir,
eat.
that's the worms, the one you talked about kanina, the worms.
The worms are the detritivores. Okay, what is now the ecological importance of scavengers? By the way, how can you balance the nature talking about scavengers?
They recycle meat.
They recycle meat. Remember that afterwards, these scavengers will die and return back again to nature. Correct?
They
But what
die.
is the ecological importance
Yes,
of these scavengers?
they give nutrients to the decomposers.
Correct. It is a cycle. Tendency is when they die, they give nutrients to the decomposers, the tritivores, and the cycle repeats again and again. As simple as that. They are connected. Okay? According to my professor before, we are all connected with a single strand. Okay, see? A single strand. Meaning to say, because we are connected in a single strand, there is a big possibility that will be removed in the system in just one click of God. As simple as that. In just one blink of an eye. Because we are connected in a single strand. Meaning that life is actually in cycle. Eventually, we will be removed in the system and return back to the cycle. As simple as that. Even the highest, even the considered as the king of the jungle, okay, will eventually die. Everybody does. Okay. Any other question? Any other question? Okay.
None, sir.
Animals, including us, has a very big role in the ecosystem. Okay. This is the reason behind that I am educating you with this because you are part of the ecosystem. As decomposers, fed dead organic matter and is transformed and broken down into simpler nutrients. These nutrients are returned into the soil or water where the producers can use them again. Okay, that's the cycle. This recycling process is very important to all members of the food chain and the food web. Because without this, there is no recycling of nutrients. Whatever is consumed will not go back to nature. Okay? So if you're going to look at the pyramid, okay, this is now your trophic level. The first trophic level, again, are the producers. Okay? They're responsible in producing their own food and, again, producing food to the rest of the trophic level. As you can see, that the first trophic level is the biggest among all because this is now the base. Let me take this call for a while. All right, let's continue. Please turn on your camera. Again, the first trophic level is responsible in producing their own food and producing the food for the rest of the trophic level. That is why it is the biggest among all. If you're going to look at it, it is the base. Okay, since it is the base, it's it has the biggest, okay, source of energy among all. Okay, as you go up in the second trophic level and in the apex predator or the tertiary consumers, the energy becomes less and less and less until it will go back to the decomposers or the soil. Okay, first trophic level are producers. Second trophic level usually composed of primary consumers. That's the herbivores. The third trophic level, okay, actually the second consumers. Okay, it actually composed of second consumers, and it could be a carnivore or omnivore. So on with the fourth trophic level, okay, it could be a carnivore or omnivore. And of course, the apex predator, okay, they're actually included in the fourth trophic level. The tertiary consumers, which is your scavengers, okay, the vultures, eagles, lion, tigers, okay. And afterwards, if they will die, okay, because they're in the fourth trophic level, the tertiary consumers, they will return back to soil by the process of decomposition. Okay, they need to return the energy, they need to return the nutrients, the vitamins that are actually present in their body or in every organism's body. Okay, and the cycle repeats again and again. But if you're going to look at it, as it rises up, the energy becomes less and less and less. Okay, question so far? Sir MJ, I cannot
None,
join
sir.
the video. Something wrong with my host. Wait, what's the problem? You cannot. Wait, why? Okay. Start video. You can always start your video, right? Energy levels, community building. The total mass of all the organisms in a food chain or community is called a biomass. Okay, the entire in the entire food chain, you can actually see a biomass. Okay, stored energy in each trophic level represents the potential food still available for organisms at the next trophic level. Why do we need to know this? Okay, why do we need to know the biomass? In order for us to illustrate the amount of energy, the amount or the amount of energy, number one. The second thing is the number of organisms living in that ecosystem. This is how to determine what the number of living organisms or the number of species living there. Why? The bigger the biomass, okay, the bigger also the community of species living in that certain organism. The more diverse an ecosystem is. You know diversity already, right? I think, by the way, talking about introductory activity, okay, I told you last meeting in your GC that I will not open again the activity because it is actually introductory activity. Okay, those introductory activity are for your additional points because it is an activity that introduces you to the topic. Okay, I had given that activity the biodiversity, introduction to biodiversity, in order for you to see the bigger picture of the lesson. Okay, but I think only one attempted. That was Reina. Okay, so I'll not open it again. Maybe maybe we can move to the next activity because that is introductory activity. Anyway, again, talking about biomass, this is one being illustrated, or this will give us an idea about how many species are living there or how big is the community living there. Okay, For example, the biomass of producers in a given community contains a certain amount of energy-rich compounds that they make. Once these producers are consumed, the consumers ingest both matter and energy and use them for their essential bodily functions. Okay? This is how also scientists predict, okay, predict the existence of species. It is based on plants or based on producers. Okay? Talking about fossils, they usually use the dead organic material from plants, fossils, plant fossils, in order to determine what organisms or what are the possible organisms living in that certain area or in that certain ecosystem. Okay? According to Raymond Lindenman, only 10% of energy in a trophic level is passed on. Correct. 10%. Why? Pass on to the next higher level as usable biological energy. Okay? This is also known as the 10% law. Okay? Some of the biomass in trophic level consists of components that are not readily consumed by organisms in the secondary and tertiary trophic levels. Bones, teeth, hove shells, claws, and the like cannot be eaten and are not necessarily or not easily digested. So the 10% energy, the trophic level, is the only way, or this is the only energy that can be passed on. Why? Because the organisms use that energy, or the 90% of it will be used by the organism for its what? Biological functions, number one, metabolic processes, number two, and cellular respiration, number three. Okay? It has been observed that the higher the trophic level in the food chain, the fewer the organisms occupy that level. Why? For example, a grassland is largely dominated by different species of plants. However, as you move up, okay, in these trophic levels, the number of consumers starts to decrease. Okay, this suggests that the number of organisms in the trophic level is proportional, okay, to the amount of energy and biomass present at the level below it. Why? Take note, if you're going to observe the pyramid, okay, the trophic level pyramid, the highest is in the lowest, correct? Because that is the base. As you go up, energy becomes less and less and less. So meaning, because the energy becomes less and less and less in the higher trophic levels, tendency is it occupies also less species there of animals. Okay? This means that the energy and the biomass from the producers to the lowest trophic level correlates to the number of organisms a community can accommodate and support. This is how we actually what? This is how we evaluate, okay, an ecosystem or the ecological niche of this species. Okay? The greater the biomass and energy the producers provide, okay, the greater the total number of organisms a community or the ecosystem can support. That's the reason. Or the more diverse they are. Okay? Like the Amazon rainforests. Okay? If you're going to look at it, if you're going to examine those, there are a lot of species of plants and animals living there. Some of them are not yet discovered. Why? Because they have a very diverse species of plants and animals. That's the reason behind. Take note that this subject, ecology, I had taken ecology for around 2 semesters. Okay, and I really, I have really seen the beauty of nature in ecology because we examine a lot of species of plants and animals. Properties of ecological communities. Okay, species diversity refers to the variety of different kinds of organisms that make up the community. Okay, we can actually adopt, or we can actually see species community if the ecology or the ecological niche is very diverse. You can actually see a lot of species living there. Okay. One aspect of diversity is the richness of species or the total number of species in a given community. Okay. The other aspect is relative to the abundance of the different species. Okay. Take a look at the two communities. Okay. Each with 100 individuals that are distributed among 5 species. Okay. For example, this is the species. Species V, species W, species X, species Y, and species Z. Okay? They're just labeled in letters in order for us to familiarize. Okay? For example, these are the species. Okay? Community A or 1 has 20 V, 20 W, 20 X, 20 Y, 20 Z. It's equal, correct? Community B has 92 V, or community 2 rather, has 92V, 3W, 3X, 1Y, and 2Z. Okay? Community A and B share the same species. If you're going to count it over, it's 100. Okay? All of them contains 100 species. Okay? But how diverse they are? They're actually different. Why? Community 1 has better relative abundance than community 2. Why? Because the distribution of organisms are equal. The distribution of energy here are equal compared to community 2. Maybe species V, this one, which has 92 species, is abundant because they are scavengers or they are the tertiary consumers. And they consume W, X, Y, and Z. Okay? But community 1 has equal distribution. So this is more what? Abundant than community 2. That's how we actually analyze ecology or ecological niche. Okay? Ecologists consider both richness and relative abundance in determining and identifying species diversity. Okay? Diversities of species contribute to the stability of a community. The more diverse an ecosystem is, the more stable it is. Okay? When we say stabilize, stable, stability of a community, meaning to say it can stand alone. Okay? It can stand alone without interruption. Okay? Although energy flows in another direction, there is one path where energy can travel through. Okay? Stability can be evaluated by measuring the alternative pathway or pathways of energy flow. If you take a look at the food web, you can see the different pathways in which energy can flow continuously. Okay. Are you still with me, everybody?
Yes.
All right. The number of pathways suggests the abundance of different species present in a bind community. This means that in order to maintain population equilibrium, predators or consumers must find ways to continuously consume and feed on prey by shifting from less abundant prey species to more abundant prey species. This is also the ecological importance of predators. Okay, they need to consume prey to balance the nature or balance the ecosystem. Okay, because the more population we have with the prey, okay, it consumes also a lot of energy in the ecosystem or in the ecological niche. Okay, this will eventually lower the density of common prey species and allow the less abundant prey species to increase, thus maintaining the stability. Okay, the ecological niche now is stable by maintaining the number of prey species. Let's move on to cycles, nutrient cycles. In an ecosystem, living organisms need energy and other chemical nutrients. Okay, energy is lost in the environment as it moves from one trophic level to the next but is eventually replenished by the sun. This explains why energy is the natural process. In this natural process is considered to be a one-way process. Okay. According to the law of thermodynamics, okay, it says there that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be transformed from one form to another. These are now the transformation of energy. It is not lost actually. It is actually transformed through what? Yes, MD, it's okay. Through what? It can be transformed to thermal energy. It can be transformed to chemical energy. It can be transformed to mechanical energy. Okay? But again, this explains why energy in this natural process is considered to be a one-way process. Okay? Because the nutrients should actually return to the soil in order for the